I think as a musician, it's very important that you are very authentic and true to yourself. And I think that's super important in life if you want to have meaningful relationships with people and the things that you do. I value a lot of critical and independent thinking, how to make decisions, how to build confidence, and how to win and how to lose. You know, those things I think are very important. Sometimes, you know, hard lessons to learn, but they're very important and they're directly transferable for other areas of your life. Whether in music, whether you're doing competitions or you're doing some sort of presentation, concert, whatever, you know, however, whatever means of expression you do, it's learning from the failures and the success as well. It applies pretty much the same to everything else in your life.
Yeah, it's a later question, but maybe we can just pursue it more, expand on it, what you just said. It's like, what does music teaches you that you can take in other areas of your life and vice versa? Maybe, you know, like when we play tennis, like what can you take out of tennis and apply it to music, or what teaches you music about life that you can apply to tennis or any?
Yeah, I think a way to expand on that is really now when you make a decision, when you choose to do a particular activity, whether it's tennis or soccer or piano, violin, or computer science, whatever, graphic design, whatever it is, right? It's really the dedication and the discipline and that commitment to making progress in a consistently, right? Making that consistent progress, however small it is that commitment of like, I'm gonna do it if I don't feel well, or if it's raining or shiny or, you know, bright day, or you know, I think the grinding really it's as close as you can get to a guarantee to success. I'm not saying it's still going to guarantee success, but the more you grind and the smarter you grind, the closer you get, for sure. And the least you depend on luck.
Right, and it just gives you a chance, right, to succeed.
Right. Yeah. It gives you better chances.
Yeah.
Let's talk about being creative.
The following conversation is with Lanzo Luconi. Lanzo was born and raised in San Jose, Costa Rica, and he has been the recipient of multiple scholarships, competition prizes, and festival awards around the world. He has performed in prestigious concert halls of Costa Rica, Europe, and the United States, where he made his Carnegie Hall debut in 2008 and was honored with the International Outstanding Professional Artistic Performance Award. In 2014, Lanzo founded the Costa Rica Piano Festival, which is the first of its kind in Central America, created to provide international musicians with the best learning opportunities through lessons with world-renowned artists, competition, solo and orchestra performances, and valuable seminars, while enhancing Costa Rica's growing music culture. During the conversation, we touch on subjects such as the role of mentorship, being authentic and pursuing music, following values, being committed, motivations, knowing your strengths, the similarities between sports and the arts, overcoming performance anxiety, showing discipline in creative work, talent versus effort, the flow state, daily routines and habits, battling writer's block, collaborating with others, the relationship between dreams and creativity, following a lifestyle that benefits the creative life, music preferences, and giving advice to younger musicians. I was stoked about discussing the different subjects with him, and I hope you find it interesting and valuable as well. Enjoy.
Anyway, thank you, Lanzo. It's amazing. I'm stoked. Yeah, tell me, how did you get into music, and why did you pick the piano?
You know, it's very interesting because when I was when I was younger, I never really picked music. I always wanted to do sports.
Right.
That was my thing. That came very natural to me.
Yeah.
My mom basically put us, my sister and I, in like piano lessons, and like a very like easygoing program.
Yeah.
And I was there for a couple of years. I didn't really learn much. It was more of a, you know, playing and singing, but there was no real
Connection?
musical training, like
Okay.
technical and like ear training and stuff like that. It was not very formal in that way. So I got bored of that, and then I didn't do anything for years, actually, until maybe I was almost 15. And my mom came to me and she said, look, there's this Russian school in Costa Rica where it seems like they're very good. They know what they're doing, and they have been producing some impressive results with some of their students. And I would love you to try it out. And I was like, absolutely not. I wanted to just play soccer and play tennis.
Right.
That was my thing.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, yeah. And we went like back and forth a little bit, and then she like we basically negotiated, and then she said, let's do this, try it for 3 months and just go for it, and then just try your best for those 3 months. If at the end of the 3 months you really don't like it, then you can quit and we'll never speak of this again.
Okay.
And I'm like, cool, all I have to do is 3 months of this, and then just move on. And man, that was the most one of the most transformative 3 months of my life, because they really opened the door to the universe of music for me. And it took a couple of weeks for me to fall in love with music.
Is it because of the teachers?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You know, in a way, when you understand music, I think that passion that you have for music can be more contagious. And also that deep understanding, that deep knowledge, and that deep passion, everything, it sort of transfers to the person that you're speaking with, and especially if you're in a educational setting, like teacher and student dynamic. So I was instantly inspired by it, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and at the time I didn't know that this is what I wanted to do for a living or as a career, but it didn't take long.
Okay.
It didn't take long for me to discover that this is what I wanted to do.
And how would you then describe your relationship with your music, like now and then, when you started, compared to now?
Well, it was, the initial phases is like a lot of practice, a lot of learning basic concepts. My relationship with music now has changed because mainly because the stage that I was in was more like I need to learn some theory and history and a lot of practicing and working on the technical part, gaining some experience, performing, all that. So the more you do that, you start acquiring a lot of resources and different perspectives. I was lucky enough to be exposed to different ideas throughout my life when it comes to music and performance, and I've met some wonderful people, very inspiring people, and all of them have impacted me to the point where I am, and I also grew to love education a lot, and that's actually what I think where my strength in music is. So I focused on that more than like the performance or composition or any other form of expression with music. Mine is mostly as an educator.
Okay. How would you? What's your view on mentorship then? Like having a mentor. You mentioned that the role of a teacher is extremely important.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. I think we should all have some sort of mentorship throughout our lives, and sometimes even if we consider ourselves experts, or we have some sort of expertise in a particular skill. I think we should always have someone who can give us some guidance, some criticism. We can bounce ideas off of someone that we respect and has a lot of experience also themselves. I think it's super important. And then also having the keeping you humble.
Right. Keeping you in check.
Keeps you in check, keeps you humble. And and of course, on top of that, having a good circle of close friends that where you can also share ideas and
receive some feedback.
Yeah, get some feedback, some criticism, and support most of all.
What are your priorities, like things that matter most to you?
In terms of music?
In general, just in life?
In life.
That maybe you can transfer to music as well, that overlaps with it.
Well, maybe I'll make that relationship more like from music. How some what do you call it, like musical mindset actually transfer to your life in general, and have transformed mine and have prioritized certain things, perhaps, because I think as a musician it's very important that you are very authentic and true to yourself, and I think that's super important in life if you want to have meaningful relationships with people and the things that you do. I value a lot of critical and independent thinking, how to make decisions, how to build confidence, and how to win and how to lose. Those things I think are very important. Sometimes hard lessons to learn, but they're very important, and they're directly transferable for other areas of your life. Whether in music, whether you're doing competitions or you're doing some sort of presentation, concert, whatever, however, whatever means of expression you do, it's learning from the failures and the success as well. It applies pretty much the same to everything else in your life.
Yeah, it's a later question, but maybe we can just pursue it more, expand on it, what you just said. It's like, what does music teaches you that you can take in other areas of your life, and vice versa? Maybe, like when we play tennis, like what can you take out of tennis and apply it to music, or what teaches you music about life that you can apply to tennis or any?
Yeah, I think a way to expand on that is really, now when you make a decision, when you choose to do a particular activity, whether it's tennis or soccer or piano, violin, or computer science, whatever, graphic design, whatever it is, right? It's really the dedication and the discipline and that commitment to making progress in a consistently, right? Making that consistent progress, however small it is that commitment of, like, I'm gonna do it if I don't feel well, or if it's raining or shiny or bright day, or I think the grinding really it's as close as you can get to a guarantee to success. I'm not saying it's still going to guarantee success, but the more you grind and the smarter you grind, the closer you get, for sure. And the least you depend on luck.
Right, and it just gives you a chance, right, to succeed.
Right.
Yeah.
It gives you better chances.
Yeah. You just saw Jacob. So, what do you admire? What are the things you admire about the people you admire, for example?
Yeah, I mean, the most recent experience that I have with someone that I admire immensely is Jacob Collier. I went to see him live in Los Angeles, and I was literally maybe like 5 feet from him, and it was absolutely mind-blowing. It's hard to describe all the feelings. First of all, because he's such a energetic, likable, charismatic person, and very fluid, not only in his speech but in the way that he moves. He's very authentic, and very witty, very smart. So it's very enjoyable. It's an enjoyable experience just to see him on stage.
Right.
And I would say that's the weakest of his skills as a performer. Yeah. So you can imagine, and not to say it's actually a weakness, because it's not at all, right? But I'm saying, like, he excels in almost all the areas as a performer. This is just mind-blowing for me. His music, of course, is complex and beautiful and simple at the same time. He plays. He's a, when we say play music, he actually plays with the music. He doesn't just play music. He plays with the music. It's almost like a dance, and this like dynamic and interaction that's almost effortless, with this immense complexity that he just makes it simple, and he almost like speaks directly to your soul. That's what I feel when I listen to his music, and of course, experiencing that live was even more.
I bet.
Very high energy, and his band, the musicians that were there, were also spectacular.
Right.
Yeah, and what's really cool is that watching him play so many instruments so well.
Okay.
He's a master of everything that he touches. Yeah. So that's also, very humbling in a way too. Yeah. It's like, wow, you can really, a human can do that. It's just crazy to me. But his music, I love his music. It's very upbeat. There's a lot of variety. There's a lot of layers. His use of harmony is something that I've never really experienced anyone do it like that. So he combines complexity and simplicity in a very unique way. So yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of authenticity, you mentioned it a couple times now. Like, how do you express your personality then through your music?
I think it's a lot of trial and error, especially at the beginning. You have to try different things. And I think it's mostly about acceptance in the end. Accept who you are, increase your awareness of your strengths and your weaknesses, and most of all, focus on the strengths. And build confidence there. That doesn't mean that your weaknesses you're just going to leave there. Of course, you have to work on them, because everything is complements each other, especially when it comes to music and different musical skills. But trial and error, and accepting yourself, accepting things as they are, and doing honest work. It's like you put in your time, you put in the work, and I guess it's like allowing yourself to be in a position where you can take as many opportunities as you can. I think an exchange of ideas with different like friends, colleagues, different artists, even in different art forms. I think this is extremely important. Then you get to know yourself better, get to know as many perspectives as you can. And I think that's how you start building the person that you are almost like meant to be. I don't know. I say that phrase, it's kind of like a cheesy phrase, but it's as cheesy as it sounds. It's true. It's like you have to have that confidence that you are meant. You have a goal. You want to do your best, and then just be authentic with that. Yeah.
Okay. Your biggest motivators in life?
Biggest motivators, as in like
In general, what
people or things.
that's
or
up to you. Like, what motivates you?
What motivates me in general, I would say, because certain circumstances change, but it's always having something to look forward to. So, for example, as a musician, if you have a concert or an event, or whether you're performing in the event, or you're producing the event, or you're producing an album, or you're like there's a specific song or a specific style, like, but something that is set on the calendar, for me is the biggest motivator. And of course, having constant inspiration around me is also very motivating. It motivates me to do more, and it also helps me enjoy what I'm doing better.
How about the people in your life?
The people in my life, yeah, I mean, they, like I said, if you have a good circle of friends and colleagues, I think that that keeps you engaged, that keeps you on your tippy toes,
Right.
yeah? And sometimes that pushes you to keep doing better, even when you're not feeling it sometimes. So you can rely on that support.
Right. When it comes to the biggest challenges you faced in your life and the way to overcome them, like what do you think are your biggest strengths?
My biggest strengths when it comes to overcoming challenges?
Yeah, and when you reflect on your greatest achievements, for example, like do you see any overlaps among your achievements or the challenges you had to overcome in regards to your strengths?
I think I don't, until this day, I don't know if this is actually a strength or a weakness. I guess more time will tell if this is a strength or a weakness. But I am very comfortable with risk, with taking risk, and that's of course, as I get older, it's more and more calculated. You know, you have more experience, and you also have more people to help you, support you. But I've always been a big risk taker.
Yeah, I can relate to that very much.
Yeah, and I mean sometimes wildly unsuccessful.
Sure.
But even then, I enjoyed the ride, as painful as it may be, or it was in the past. You still build up a little bit of courage, so you can try again, maybe slightly different, and until you make it, until you get what you want. So I'm a big believer in risk, and of course, when you're younger, I think you should risk a lot. And of course, try to get as much guidance and information and knowledge as you can.
Yeah.
But then you have to go for things. Think big from a young age.
Yeah.
And I think you're gonna lose that fear of going for big things, or for going for bigger things. And once you do, I feel like that is a strength, or at least a feature in me that keeps me also productive and keen, you know, to what's going on, to my plans, to what I like.
Yeah.
And what else? What's part of the?
Yeah, in
question?
general, like your strengths. If they're
And then I would say another strength that I have is vision. I tend to see things done in a particular way, and then put that and then execute on that. Especially if I have a good team, I feel like that vision comes to fruition quite nice.
So collaboration then. Huh?
Collaboration, of course, collaboration is key. But then executing a vision.
Yeah. When it comes to risk taking, I think it's very close related also to curiosity and novelty, you know, and being like attracted to the unknown a little bit, you know.
Yes.
That you dive into an adventure, but then I think it's very important to be aware of consequences. You know, if things don't work out, and if they don't work out and you're aware of them, you're like, okay, this can happen, then maybe the disappointment is not as big and you're able to get back up again easier.
Well, it all depends on it all depends on the mentality that you take the risk with. Yeah, because if you are too focused on the result of the risk, then you're setting yourself up for potential disappointment. I think you, especially because look, the risk is a funny thing. The younger you are, the more you can afford this, right? But then as you get older, you can still take risks, right? But now you have the experiences of so many variables, right, that you've encountered. So you're less likely to make bad decisions. I'm not saying you're gonna make flawless decisions all the time. No, that wouldn't be realistic. But you were saying like sometimes you might be like afraid of consequences and stuff. When you're young, you can afford to even lose it all. At least in terms of like your immediate resources. I'm not saying or recommending putting in risk like your physical integrity or your family or something like that, right? This doesn't mean that you're not going to be responsible. That's a whole other
accountability
topic. Yeah, the accountability and the responsibility that you're taking, right? But for example, starting a business, starting a project, learning an instrument, learning different things. When you're in your teenage years and your 20s, you can afford to start over and over. Even in your 30s. I mean, I still feel like pretty young for many things.
I hope so.
And yeah, it's just having that mentality that you can, if you set your mind to it, another cliche, right? But it's you do the risk assessment, and then if you go for it, you go for it, and go for it wholeheartedly, and the worst thing that can happen is you fail and you learn a ton.
Think any art form is a risky endeavor in a way, you know, especially when you want to put yourself out there and you want to share it with the world, you know, you risk to be, I don't know, being rejected, you know, you're vulnerable, you know.
But if it's something that you're used to from a young age, right?
That's where you build the resilience.
You build the resilience, you build the mentality, you build the confidence that you know that you're doing honest work. Yeah, even if people don't like it, you're doing honest work, and then you can polish your product, whatever it is, right? Whether it's like music or whatever. You can polish it without compromising yourself. And then there's always going to be someone out there that is going to recognize, and the more honest you are with your work, the more authentic you're going to be, and then people resonate with that.
Especially these days, I think.
Especially these days.
So performance anxiety is a big one in the performing arts, right?
Big time.
How do you deal with it? How you tackle that bitch?
During my performance years, you know, I would get nervous. But I think it has to do, I would say the number one thing is your preparation. You have to be incredibly well prepared. Good preparation is like bulletproof almost.
Gives you confidence.
And it's just like it's not just preparing, it's not just practicing a lot. It's actually more important than the quantity, like the hours that you put in, is like the the focus and the quality of those hours. Yeah. So first of all, having a really good mentor or guide or teacher, right, or trainer or coach, whatever activity you're doing, and taking very solid steps in the process. Yeah, until you build that confidence of, for example, in tennis, for example. Yeah, it's almost like you have to work on your forehand until you build up that confidence that you don't have to think about it anymore. Right. Yeah, there's many ways to do that. If you're always doing small corrections of like bad habits and improving, it's going to come to a point where you're not thinking about anything. You're just thinking about, you're thinking like 2 steps ahead. Yeah. You're not thinking about the forehand anymore. Right. Yeah. That gives you confidence. Yeah. In music, for example, the technical part, you can work on that until you don't have to think about it anymore. You're 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of it. You're thinking about the expression, the whether colors or motions or the storytelling part. Yeah. Building up intensity or the mood, right? You're thinking about that. You're not thinking about your fingers or like, oh, this is too fast or too slow. That was already taken care of. That was already solved in the right. So that's the preparation part. The mentality also, it's like you have to fail a lot. I feel like you have to learn how to cope and deal with failure. And one of the things that helped me the most to deal with those nerves is knowing that nothing really happens if you mess up. Right. If you mess up in tennis, you hit the ball to the net, you lose a point. Right. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. You lose a game. You're playing the piano, you miss a few notes, you have a little memory slip. As long as you're doing honest work, hey man, like people are going to enjoy it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Right. But one of my teachers once told me, because I was getting like super nervous and I was making just sometimes like silly mistakes or things that are kind of frustrating because they're easy, and she told me, don't worry, at least you're not a doctor. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, doctors, like a surgeon, can't make mistakes. Yeah. Yeah. So your responsibility is actually quite easy. You mess up a concert, you can always play again. Yeah. You can always try again. Go back to practice and try again. Go back to practice, try again. If you're a surgeon,
it's about saving lives.
You're saving lives. You're dealing with people's bodies and families and stuff like that. So I'm like, that's a good point. Yeah. That's a really good point. So, that gave me sort of that
you're losing
calmness. Yeah, it's like you're calm and you say like, you know what, I'm just gonna try my best. I believe in the work that I did, and then on top of that, yes, you can complement with things like breath work and visualizing. Yeah.
Relaxation techniques.
I think, some relaxation techniques, getting enough rest, all these things are important for sure. I think a complementary skill is public speaking. Yeah. That really helps your anxiety, because when you're, standing in front of people, it's always a little bit of like, it gives you a little bit of anxiety, you tense up, but when you have enough experience, when you do it enough, you start losing that fear.
Yeah, public speaking is supposed to be one of the most, anxiety-inducing activities.
Well, it's really just standing in front of a crowd. If you just think about going up on stage and just standing there and then leaving, that's already nerve-wracking. You don't have to do anything. Yeah. So you're like, there's so many people. Yeah. So it's like being in the spotlight, but in a way, I also had another mentor. He wasn't like a teacher, but he was sort of a mentor, and sometimes he would come lecture our group of students at the school, and he was a musician, and he was an expert in acting and drama in general. and he would say that when you go on stage, you're a king or you're a queen, right? When you're on stage, it's about you. Make it about you, but you as giving a service, not as you're more important than anyone else. You are. It is your responsibility now, right, to deliver your joy and your emotions, right, your art form to the audience. It's really what it's about. When you're a real king, you serve your people, right? Not the other way around. So that also sort of like humbles you. It's like, okay, I'm here because I'm providing something for you. So I take that very seriously.
But I have to give value.
But I'm the person that is the most important person in this moment. When I get off stage, I just go back to my regular life. I'm no better, no worse. I'm not on stage. So it's also an interesting perspective. I like it. When you're on the spotlight.
When it comes to creativity, there's I don't know. When it comes to the arts, sometimes I have to be kissed by the muse to have inspiration. And then there's also an attitude to just show up every day, show the discipline and put in the work, Can you, I don't know, relate to one approach more than the other, or what is your take on being creative?
For sure. I'm a firm believer that the discipline, the grind, is essential, because you can always make progress in some way, even if you're not inspired. It's like, okay, let's say with piano, in my case, it's like I don't feel, maybe I'm playing like a particular piece and I don't feel creatively inspired, right, to like interpret in a certain way or stuff like that. I can always work on something else. I can always, then focus on technique. I can read. I can analyze the piece. I can watch some recordings or listen or some recordings and watch some videos. There's always things, right? But you gotta be in it. And the funny thing about inspiration is the best type of inspiration is the one that finds you working. Inspiration is much less likely to hit you when you're doing nothing, especially when you're down and when you're like sort of with that defeated mentality. You gotta be ready to receive it. And sometimes you don't need that. You don't need it that often, but you need to be ready when it comes, because then you can really take advantage of the flow of this flow that when the muse visits you. The eureka moment. Take it all. Take it all and then some more.
Go all in.
Go all in.
We touched on confidence, self-belief, all that stuff. How important it is to believe in yourself. Also to set like audacious goals. To I don't know. To be a little bit over the top sometimes in what you imagine. Like how important do you think is that? You said you like to take risks.
The risk thing is like, go for it. But if you go for it, commit to it. Jump in with 2 feet. Sometimes you can dabble certain things here and there, but when you make a decision about something, go all in. And that doesn't mean that you're committing to do this for the rest of your life the same way exactly, right? But if you have a particular goal, right? Let's say with tennis you wanna participate in a tournament, in a particular tournament, maybe like a big tournament, a regional tournament, right? Then you work your ass off until you get there. Then the result doesn't matter. You just want to get to the tournament, because you don't know what's gonna happen, right? Or when it comes to starting a business, it's like, all right, the goal is to like start the business and I don't know, put the effort in until it at least is minimally profitable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you reach there, then you can make other decisions. You get to the tennis tournament. Let's say you make it to like semifinals. Maybe you win, maybe not, right? But then you can make different decisions. But you shouldn't make big move decisions regarding to that goal halfway.
Right.
Right? It's like you're gonna you say, okay, I'm gonna commit to opening a business. Do whatever you can, but open the damn business. Yeah. And make it to the tournament. Yeah. Make it to the competition. Yeah. A music competition, or write the song, go and produce it, go to the studio and record it. Then you decide what to do.
Exactly.
Then you decide. But the goal was to, make the song, record it. Then you decide. That the next step is, there's so many different avenues. But the other thing is like taking those steps is a better way to at least have something to show for your work.
Talent versus effort. What's more?
Oh, talent is meaningless.
I agree. It's just
it's nice.
It's potential, but it's wasted if you don't apply it.
Exactly. Right. And then this is something very interesting about talent, because people sometimes think that talent is just like picking something up and then doing it right, or doing it really, really well for the first time, or something like that. And this is absolutely wrong. The talent can be revealed in many different ways, and sometimes it's not so apparent at the beginning. I've known so many people, in my case students, that when they first start, they pick up the instrument and they have a really rough time. They have a rough time, sometimes years, until something clicks. And once that clicks, you're like, whoa, what happened? It's almost like the talent was unlocked.
Okay.
For some people, it happens earlier. For some people, it happens much later.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter as much, because even if you're in the pursuit of this break in your talent, you're still improving, you're still making progress, you're still moving forward. And then talent is also such a subjective thing in many ways. It's like if we talk about music or arts in general, which are very subjective subjects, right?
Super subjective.
You can
it's not like sports.
How do you differentiate two high level performers, one that is more talented than the other?
You're the teacher. You tell me.
Right, but it's very hard. Like you can see maybe some like physical agility that comes maybe more natural. But what is the decider? What is the decider factor to say like, oh, this person is more talented than this other one? It's gonna vary. Like what do you call criteria that you use to judge that is gonna vary. Like you might feel different than I do when we watch, whether it's a tennis player or a musician or an artist of any kind, and you're gonna see like maybe we both think that they're talented, but we're gonna say it for different reasons. Yeah. And this also is rooted in some knowledge of the activity. Of course, you and I know about tennis, so we can identify when someone maybe has a little bit more fluidity with their movements and is a proper placement on the court and stuff like that, right? But do you think, for example, I'll give you an actual example. Someone in the tennis court that has bad, or maybe not so good court placement, is talented or isn't talented?
Yeah, there's so many different aspects to this. There's also like a game intelligence, you know, like a decision making.
Mm-hmm.
What shot you have to do. You can maybe have a better technique than your opponent, but you don't make better decisions when it comes to making a shot.
There you go.
That's a thing, I think. Then maybe this has nothing to do with talent, that kind of thing, but certain techniques look more appealing, so there's a aesthetic beauty component to it. You know, like there's
that is also subjective.
It's very subjective, exactly. Yeah, that's more like when you would understand sport more like an art form, right? Yeah, and that's less about maybe being competitive in a way, or winning or losing. You know?
Right. Well, but here's a very interesting thing. When it comes to tennis, what is it really about?
Winning the point in the end.
Winning the point, winning the game, right? So it doesn't matter. You can have the ugliest, most awkward movement technique, but if you get the job done, you win.
Yeah,
that's the objective part of the game, which is less, I guess, apparent or I would say completely different from an art form, where it's the subjectivity increases as you get better.
Yeah.
Right.
You can die in beauty, and the other one wins of boredom.
Yeah. And with tennis, you can even play with the racket upside down. If you win every point, you win the game.
How would you then value or give importance to quality of taste in the arts? You know, there's because that's kind of interesting to me, that you can differentiate between, let's say, higher quality art and less quality, lower quality art.
Yeah. Well, I think that honestly, I learned this. I think it starts with appreciating what the person is doing first.
Do you also think it has something to do with experience? When you start, probably the music you make is not as good quality-wise.
Right. So that's my point. Right. So let's say you are listening, or you're exposed to artists at different experience levels. But there's always things that you can appreciate about people's forms of expression, right? So when you learn to appreciate that, you can see beyond the imperfections and see like, okay, what is this person trying to do? What is this person trying to create? And of course, as an educator, you have to look past that and see what their heart is at. Yeah. And if their heart is in the right place and they're doing honest work, they will climb that ladder. They will keep polishing and refining their tools, right? But an artist with the best tool set, or I would say not an artist,
resources.
but a person. Let's say a person. You can give a non-experienced person all the tools and all the resources in the world, and they will never create anything meaningful. Right? If they're not doing honest work and they don't understand what they're doing. Does that make sense? So it's not about the resources, and it's not about the tools. It's about the person trying to express something, and that mentality and that desire of trying different things and learning and sharing with the audience, and then as they get more experience, then they can probably have access to better tools. But the tools and the resources are going to serve the skill, and not the other way around. The skill doesn't come from the tools. So,
Can you tell or reflect when you're making music, or certain moments, you can also pick just moments, certain experiences you had, events or something, or general activities of music making when you're so locked in that you're just deeply immersed in it. The world shuts down around you, nothing matters, and you forget everything, and just time is just gone.
What are you asking me if I can recall?
Yeah, moments, or that you even like have maybe you have certain routines where you know when you just play certain things.
I think we all in some way experience it in the things that we do. Sometimes it can be in a like very, very short moments, and sometimes those moments can extend and can even intensify even more. Getting into that flow, I think, requires some sort of ritual. I feel like rituals are great, great steps to walk into this zone.
Right.
And first of all, you gotta enjoy what you're doing, or you're not gonna get into the zone. It's gotta be challenging every time.
Yeah.
If it's not challenging you, you will disengage immediately.
Right. Die of boredom.
Yeah. You either get bored or you get distracted, or So sometimes, like during my practice, if I had to get something, or in like a recording session, for example, it's exhausting. Yeah, but it's, if you don't immerse yourself in what you're doing, and you're not enjoying it, and you don't like it, it doesn't. Let's say you get distracted. Your focus is affected.
So focus is key.
Right, but the focus should let's see, the focus should go like in a crescendo, right? Start with the ritual, right? Because every time that you do this ritual, is you're conditioning your mind and your body to enter the zone. Yeah?
You see it with athletes a lot, right?
Right. And a good example is even like Rafa's serve preparation, right?
Right.
He's it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah,
but dude, he's one of the best players that ever existed. Like, what are you gonna do? What can any of us say?
Dude, he has a whole
about
routine right before the match.
His silly routines and his OCD and whatever.
But it's only during the match. It's not during practice.
It worked for him. It clearly works for him. So he found a way to do it.
Right.
Yeah. So he's in the zone more often than not. That doesn't mean that he's not going to make mistakes, or he's not going to have a bad game, or he's not going to have a bad serve, or even a bad season, because he's had all of those. But it's the conditioning. It's conditioning. Yeah. Oh, it's almost a hack of our own minds, because we know that our minds can achieve incredible things, but there's certain aspects of them that are also incredibly simple, like doing the same thing over and over, and once we realize what the result is, we can just keep doing it.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, like when you go into a practice session, you establish a goal. I feel like establishing a goal is important.
Have clarity.
Yeah, have clarity on what you want. There's an objective, right? And I remember I used to do this when I was in soccer practice, and we were practicing free kicks. The goal, and we would have like the nets in the different parts of the goalpost, and we would have to hit like 5 shots in every corner.
Okay.
And of course, you have to shoot like 200 times to hit those, right? But but you're like, you start getting, maybe the first shot you're not so focused, but then you start going and you start going and you start going. By the time you're in shot maybe 50, you forget everything. You forget the world, and you're just focused on the task at hand. Yeah. Even if you don't make it right away, you try again and again. You make it, you move on to the next one. Right. You make it, you go on to the next one. You make it, you go, and then you're only done when you're done. And then when you're done, then you feel tired, and then you feel right. But in the moment, you're not feeling tired. You don't feel hungry. You don't even sneeze. Yeah, even some like bodily functions are not in the front, right? It's
not present. Yeah,
it goes in the background. It goes as a background task. Maybe you have to go to the bathroom, but that's in the it's the background task. Right now, it's this. Yeah. And when you're done, all of a sudden you need to go to the bathroom. You're hungry. And you're tired, right? But so I remember those practices in high school playing soccer. With piano, same thing. Maybe you need to learn a specific section, or you need to memorize something. And I would, try with my eyes closed, with one hand and then the other. I would try singing it. I would try with the music, then without the music. I would try small sections that are a little bit bigger sections. So you're sort of making it a game, right? You mentioned that is when you make it a game, and when you challenge yourself, but you're changing like things up, you enter that zone much easier, much more effectively.
Yeah, it's a little bit play. Huh?
Yeah.
You said rituals. Do you have certain habits or routines how you can, I don't know, get the creative juices going?
Let's see. It depends for what. When it's something that I've been doing for a long time, my rituals tend to get really short because you have more experience.
Exactly.
Right? So, let me see an example. Like if I have to sit down and learn a piece of music, or I just want to read a piece of music and I want to be focused. Usually what I do is I would listen to a recording, and I would listen to a recording that I like. So sometimes I would either find my go-to recording, which is always satisfying, or I enjoy exploring different recordings of people playing that piece until I find one that I like, or that I find interesting. And I'm like, ooh, and then I'm really like almost taking notes. And already my flow state started. Because I'm paying attention. I'm like, okay, I want to try this. What if I try this with this? I have a goal. Right? And that sort of establishes the goal, and then I sit down and I do it. And sometimes I just go to a specific section if it's a very new piece, something that I've never read before, or something that I've never played before, or sometimes something that I've played a long time ago, and I revisit. But you come in with new perspectives. You're more mature, so hopefully. I don't know, when I was doing sports, it might be a little bit more physical. Like a specific warm-up. Sometimes I would try to repeat the warm-ups. That would make me feel good. That would make me feel loose in my body.
Go back to things that worked in the past, right? Yeah,
for example, there's certain stretches that help me like loosen up the hips and loosen up the legs, and then and then I can have a really awesome workout, or I can have a really awesome tennis session or soccer or whatever. But it started with the little warm-up, getting my heart rate a little bit pumping, and then doing some stretches that make me feel loose, right? So it's almost like getting in tune with your body before you do the activity.
Okay.
And then once you're more in tune and then you feel it, then you're ready. Yeah.
Can you then tell like a certain time during the day if there's a difference? For example, do you like to be creative or productive? Depends on what kind of work you do, of course. But let's talk about music. Yeah. To early in the day or maybe a little bit later. Can you see differences?
I mean, that has changed for me over
Okay.
the years quite a bit. I used to be much more nocturnal. In fact, my best time to practice when I was in college, in grad school especially, was from between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m.
Holy fuck, okay.
And sometimes I would take that entire time I would start practicing at 11 and finish at 4 in the morning. And that was probably because it was quiet. There was no noise around. There was no like friends and stuff. Because it's also especially back then I was very social, so I would be looking for any excuse to like goof around, you know. And but then I could really focus, and I could really get the pianos that I wanted, you know, and stuff like that. Now, of course, you know, the life changes. Now you have to like make money and work and cook and do laundry and all these things. So now what I do is I try to gauge my energy levels as soon as I get up. And whatever I have, if I feel very energized, I do something that's very important. And I do that first. If I feel a little bit lazy or slow, I will do things that are not that important until I gain some momentum, and then I will move on to the things that maybe are more important at the moment. But hey, I'm not perfect.
Sure. Who is perfect?
Yeah. But I try my best.
Right. How do you tackle creative ruts?
Ooh, a creative rut. Well, again, we go back to the grinding and the inspiration, right? It's like it's got to find you working. Work differently. Maybe it's time to change things up a little bit. Maybe it's time to maybe read something that you're normally wouldn't read. Be exposed to ideas that are completely opposite to yours. Perspective shift. Have conversations with people that you either find interesting or that are the like complete opposite. Learn something new that usually sort of challenges your brain to make different connections, rewire itself in different ways, and physical activity. I think it always helps.
Right.
Physical activity, and sometimes you don't have to like destroy yourself in the gym or go run a marathon. Sometimes it's like just go to the park and walk. And
nature is a really good way to keep
just go stand outside and get some sunlight. And call a friend. I don't know, like something that is still stimulates your brain, but
you take your attention off the problem.
Right. But something that's still like you're being, I think it's more of an attitude of that, of being proactive about it. And sometimes being proactive means doing the complete opposite. Maybe what you need is just to go have some fun. And then you'll be surprised. Like all you need. Sometimes we so focused on the issue, on the problem, or on the deadline or whatever, that our even not only our bodies but our minds just tense us up, and it doesn't allow that change of perspective or thinking outside the box to happen because everything is so rigid. Maybe all you needed to do was like go watch some stand-up comedy on Netflix, or go like, yeah, go have a laugh, go have a drink with a friend, go have some coffee, go for a walk, and then you come back and maybe once your body is tired, it needs to like relax, and then your mind relaxes, and you might be in the shower one day all tired, and you're like, boom, bingo, there it is.
Yeah.
You weren't even trying. So,
right.
And then if it doesn't work, just keep trying other things, you know. I don't know. Everybody's different.
Right. When you compare making music by yourself and collaborating with other musicians, like how do you value that experience? Also, like from a creative performance point of view.
Well, I would say I don't have that much experience like making music, composing music. I have some, but it's not my expertise, I would say. But I have collaborated many times in different settings, whether it's just as a performer, of a co-creator, co-producer, something like that. I've done. And
well, when you organize your music festival, in Costa Rica, I mean, you have to, you work on a music project. You don't play music, but you still have to collaborate with a bunch of musicians.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I think it's important to I want to make the point that there's no such thing as just doing anything completely solo, completely alone. There's in some way, shape, or form, there's gotta be other listening ears, other minds in the process, whether at the beginning, in the middle, at the end. So you have to be very confident in yourself, but also know that you have your limitations and that you need other people. Yeah. So in my case, when it comes to like organizing a festival or running a business, right? It's about collaboration. It's about teamwork, and it's important to have very clear roles of what each person is going to do. At least in that setting of like a business, and then allowing people to work on to do the work from their strengths. Yeah, and that's where the most beautiful things are created, because everybody's joining forces, everybody's joining strengths. Yeah. So yeah, it's incredible, and when it comes to music, that's also true. Like some composers maybe don't have the vision that a producer does, right? And then vice versa. Or even some instrumentalists, maybe, I don't know, a guitar player doesn't have the vision that a violinist does, even though they're both string players in a way, and they can learn a lot off of each other. And then even completely opposite, like some percussion and some vocals. It's like that's sometimes where you can learn the most. So the more open-minded you are, the more humble you are, and one of the things that I like to make clear, especially when the project is mine, and I want people to jump on board, is that I never make it about me. Right. It's always about the project. Yeah. And
so there's something greater.
It's something greater, right? So our responsibility, their responsibility is not with me. Their responsibility is with the project. Right. In my case, for example, is with the festival. the people that are in my staff and the board and all that, they're doing it for the festival, for what the festival is doing, for the great impact that the festival is doing in the participants, in the audiences, in the country, and all the people that it touches, right? That's what they're doing it for. They're not doing it for me, right? So and then you can apply this to anything, whether it's like, okay, we're gonna collaborate on writing a song together, or just doing a performance together, playing some chamber music, or producing a song. I don't know.
Yeah.
Painting something, writing a book, whatever expression, right? It's like
making a movie.
Making a movie, right? Well, movies are a great example of absolute collaboration.
Exactly.
Like there's no other way to make a movie than collaboration, because you can't be as good in every aspect, right? Yeah. You can't be like an incredible like screenwriter, and then a director, and then a producer, and then an editor, and then a musician, right? Or
light.
And then lighting, and then oh my goodness, it just requires, and then the marketing and all that. Okay, so that's definitely I would say one of the best examples of collaboration. That a successful collaboration can go a long way.
Expanding on that, you mentioned like everybody has a role, working with their strengths. Like, how much is then the importance of having autonomy in your role, that you can express yourself, and not like that you have like I don't know, a supervisor, executive that tells you, I want it exactly like that. And it's more like, here, this is the idea, and now make it your own.
Right. This is where it gets tricky.
Okay.
This is where it gets tricky, and I think that whoever is the supervisor has to be great with people. Because absolute liberty sometimes can be very messy and chaotic.
Overwhelming.
It's very easy to go nowhere with absolute liberty. I think it's very important to have structure, and it's very important to have direction.
Is it then, of course, probably in line also with personality, but expertise, the more experienced you are, maybe you are...
Right, so that comes also with choosing the right person for the right role, for example. And understanding also like why you are choosing this person to do this, right? And knowing what they can contribute and being open to it. Also, you have to be open to disagreements.
Right.
And I think disagreements sometimes can be very fruitful, can be very beneficial to the project. Sometimes in the moment it doesn't feel so...
No, of course not.
...so good, but but there's always... It's almost like a type of debate that goes on, and it sort of helps you, but helps you... I don't know, like see the flaws in your own thinking and your own perspective, and also gain some knowledge. Sometimes it's not even about the task, but about the person, the other person, or even yourself, right? Like you and I can have a disagreement about putting something in a song, but that can be very useful for me to understand you better, not the song.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Or understand myself better. I'm like, oh, I see what's going on here. So I sort of start
self-reflection,
doing some self-reflection and becoming more aware of myself. And sometimes I can stand by my conviction because of my experience in this particular thing, right? And then if you have the same attitude towards it, then you are also going to learn a lot from this disagreement, right? And sometimes we can have this disagreements and all this thing just to go back to the same spot that we were, and then just making that decision. But everyone grew in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's okay. It's fine. It's about like going back to the supervisor. It's having a balance of not extreme liberty and knowing how to pick your people, your staff, your team, And in the other extreme, it's like micromanaging everything, because then you're killing the creative flow of your team.
Yeah.
And that means that you're using them like for what you want. So you're making it about you. You're not making it about.
I mean, you put
project,
certain people
right?
in a position because they have certain quality, right?
Exactly. So that's why you have to be an incredibly good communicator, because you can also have the right person, but if you don't communicate or you don't convey the right ideas, it's almost like you're talking different languages.
Right.
So you're missing out on their actual talent and their expertise.
Yeah, what a wasted potential.
So this is, this would be tragic.
Yeah. How do you, in the music, you mentioned earlier, like just listening or looking, you know, like what kind of senses you use? Is there, can you tell that specific senses, feeling, hearing, you know, just seeing your visual sense, is there certain senses that work better than others in music? Because music is about feeling in a way, and I heard also tennis is about feeling. It's less about thinking, it's more about feeling. You know, and I see a lot of musicians, even though you look at your instrument to see what you're playing, when you really like are immersed in it, eyes are closed.
Right. I think that's actually I would explain that better if we look at the learning stages or the learning process. Sometimes you have to rely on certain senses more than others, depending on the stage that you're in. If you're learning an instrument for the first time, you can't have your eyes closed.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah.
That's gonna slow you down. I'm not saying it's possible, but it's really gonna slow you down, right? And it's gonna challenge whoever's teaching you as well, right? And I just think it's just having clarity.
You need to know where the key is, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like which string, you know, or which key, or like which drum am I hitting? It's like just throw the stick wherever.
Well, that was a symbol.
Yeah, I tried. I would say the most important sense is your ear, and your ear has to be connected to your heart, and your metaphoric heart, of course. Right. But
has to feel right.
I always one of the approaches, maybe not always, because everything depends on the person, but I often explain to my students that the first thing you have to do is use your imagination, and then start building what you want in your imagination, and then hear it in your imagination, and feel it in your imagination, and see it in your imagination, right? So you sort of have like this model. You create this model in your head. And when you then start executing, you have a model to contrast your result with, right? And of course, you're creating this model, and this model is also evolving. I'm not saying that it's going to be like the one perfect thing, but at least you have a better idea of what you want. And then when you start executing, of course you're gonna make a lot of mistakes, and it's gonna sound like shit, and you know it's part of the it's part of the process, right? But you try it for like, I don't know, can I curse in this, or?
Yeah, please.
Okay. You're gonna let's say
I cursed already.
Well, you have this idea here that you created in your imagination, and then you start executing, and you start maybe here, and it sounds really bad, and then you keep practicing certain things, and then maybe this part improves, this one hasn't improved that much, so this one is getting closer to your ideal, but not this one, so you start working on this one, and you sort of like inch your way up to here. But sometimes along the way you say like, oh, this was actually really cool. Why don't I add it to my model, right? And that's one thing you already know how to do. And then on the other hand, you have a mentor, you have a teacher, you have a guide that's also giving you feedback. It's like, oh, about this imagination, how about we read this book and see what actually would fit best in this style, or how about we listen to some recordings, how about we I don't know, bounce ideas off of each other. I share my experience with you, right, as your educator, as your teacher, as your mentor, so that you can polish, you can better understand what you're doing, right? So this is also going to evolve, but then there's this process that's going on with your execution until you arrive to your as close to your goal that you built, right? So it's an internal process. So you're using your ear, so you're always attuned to that. There's no way you can't use all of your senses if you don't have this ideal.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just playing mindlessly, and then you're just moving fingers.
Yeah.
Or you're just swinging arms, or you're just kicking balls, and
right.
For what? What is right? There's no real direction. You have to have your, you have to use your imagination, have your ideals, and then execute in that direction.
Talked a few times already about having objectives, goals, you know, but they're different kind of goals. You can have a result, you know, some kind of achievement, and you can have learning goals, and you can also have a goal to experience something, which is intrinsically motivating. And then there's the idea that you should value process over outcome or results. Is there any? How do you feel about this? You know, is it more about the journey and your?
Well, I would say most of the time it's about the journey, because you don't have control over the results. You don't get to choose what the results are, almost never. But you get to control what you do every day. Almost, like, at least how you feel and what you do.
Right.
You get to control that a little bit more. Like, for example, this applies not to everything, especially when it comes to music stuff that is more subjective. I often tell my students when they're preparing for like a competition or some, you know, some activity where they're going to be evaluated, that the best they can do is honest work on good preparation, and then play their best.
Right.
After that, there's nothing else they have control over.
No.
If they have a jury in front of them, they're going to write what they write. They're going to choose according to their own criteria and preferences. And maybe some of them are going to be grumpy that day because they're hungry and they didn't have their coffee. The other one is going to be upset because they had a fight with their wife or husband or girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. And then the other one's probably going to be in a good mood and is going to write great comments for everybody and is going to, you know, rate everybody really high. And you don't get to choose that result, right? So you go to a competition, play your best, do your best, smile, thank the audience, thank the people that are there listening. Get off the stage, forget about it, move on to the next thing. If you win, great. If not, you still win because you did your best, right? And then if you don't win, you can try again next time. And with other maybe more objective activities like tennis, it's like, whoever, or soccer, whoever just scores the most points wins, right?
Right.
But in a way, the subjectivity comes like sometimes it's not whoever plays the best that wins.
Sure.
Right? Sometimes there's a little bit of luck involved. Sometimes there's some really tough battles with your opponent. Yeah. Sometimes it becomes more of a chess match than anything, right? And it can be the ball maybe was out this long. There can be human error. Now we have less human error, but back in the day, sometimes it was human error, right? How many championships were lost or won because of human error?
Or you didn't take your chances. You know, you had, I don't know, 10 break chances, but you didn't take them, and then your opponent had one.
Right.
Took it.
And took it. So with this, this is a really good one with soccer, for example. Sometimes you can have 25 shots on goal,
right? And
your opponent had one, but they scored.
Yeah, I remember what was it? 2012 Champions League final, Bayern Munich against Chelsea. Oh my God.
Also, mentality, confidence or overconfidence sometimes can play tricks on you.
Yeah. Some of the greatest creative minds had created art or had like deep insights during dreaming. What's your relationship with dreaming? Do you remember your dreams?
Not very often, to be honest.
Did you take
I wish I
anything?
did. I wish I remembered my dreams.
Did you take anything out of it?
But sometimes, you know what? Sometimes I have clear moments when I just wake up. Like right after waking up. Maybe not from dreams, but I have great ideas, or I have great insights about myself or about problem solving and stuff like that. I feel like, well, from what we know in my limited knowledge on the scientific part of dreams and how the brain works, but I know the brain is very, very active in our sleep, probably when it's most active in certain areas, and it's processing a lot of the things that went on when we're awake.
Or preparing us for something.
It's repairing itself, regenerating, resting our bodies while I don't know. There's a lot going on. Yeah.
Memory consolidation.
With the memory part, your immune system, like there's
recovery, right?
Exactly. So I think if you feed your brain good information, it will improve your. It would improve in your sleep, I think, because if you feed it a bunch of junk, that's what it's gonna process in your sleep, right? And it's gonna make all these like non-linear connections. Sometimes, you know, our dreams don't make sense. But I think if it's valuable, useful information, we have better chances of our brains coming up with interesting things in our sleep.
How do you value then lifestyle choices? Means nutrition, exercise, your social connections, your sleep. You know, what kind of effect does that have on your productivity, on your creative performance?
I think health should be our number one, or always close to number one.
Yeah.
Because my grandpa used to tell us all the time, it's like without health you're nothing. You can't do nothing.
That's a really important investment. Yeah.
He just turned 97, by the way.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah. Go grandpa. Yeah, he really valued his health, and that doesn't mean like he was perfect. Like we don't have to be perfect, but we have to make, you know, conscious choices about our lifestyle. And health just doesn't just mean what you eat. It's what you consume in every way. Right.
The media
that you consume, the books that you read, the people you relate with.
Exactly.
The physical environment that you're in. Yeah, that's part of like there's a lot of information going your way. And
how you have your home organized.
Are you on top of things?
Yeah.
Are you organized? Sometimes our physical space is a reflection of our internal space.
Yeah. Is it messy?
So, and there's nothing wrong with making a mess. I think it's not advantageous to live in a mess, to live in chaos. I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's important to learn how to deal with chaos and be willing to dive deep into chaos.
The creative process is very chaotic.
Exactly, the creative process and
it's a messy process now.
And I don't think you can be truly organized until you know what a real mess is. Right? You need to be in messy situations. You need to know what a messy room looks like. You need to know how you can make a mess, but to create something beautiful and then clean up after yourself. You know. And I think I'm a huge believer in building efficient systems. for example, building a system where you can really increase the efficiency and effectiveness of your workflow.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
So that's a very, like, I would say, like, very analytical, the very analytical part of you, creating a system where you can be completely free in your creativity.
You have more cognitive resources available for the process.
Right. So, and it's like, okay, like, for example, we talked about the rituals. The ritual can be part of a system that you know it works, right? The best thing I can come up with when it comes to that is in the culinary arts and food, right? If you have a system of how you go about certain recipes, how you operate your kitchen, that can have incredible results, especially if you're like juggling different dishes at the same time.
Cooking is all about timing.
It's the timing, right? But you need a system, right? Otherwise, you can be an expert, but you're gonna burn your bread, and you're gonna your pasta is gonna be overcooked, and then the oven is going to right. And maybe you're an expert on all of them, but you have poor organization. You don't have a good system. So you can burn your house to the ground because of poor planning, even if you're highly skilled at something.
Right. Mindfulness is a big topic within society. It's getting more and more popular. Do you have any mindfulness practices? How about something like gratitude?
I would say I'm not like super consistent with like meditation and I don't know what else is considered like more like mindfulness, but
breathing exercises.
Like some breathing exercises. Of course, I've done quite a bit, and I try to keep some sort of regularity with it.
Just a simple gratitude practice, like keeping a gratitude journal.
Yeah, sometimes I try to just remind myself to be in the moment, feel what I'm feeling, and be grateful for what I have. I don't necessarily have like a journal where I write all these things, but I do remind myself constantly of things.
You can reflect on it.
I reflect on things very often. I always try to find the good even in the bad situations, because there's always something good that you can get out of a bad situation, without going too far, of course, and falling into that toxic positivity, like everything is fine. No, not. Sometimes things are not fine. Yeah. But it's okay, right? When you accept that things are not fine, but you also know that you can get out of it, and then things are gonna be fine after this situation.
Be honest with yourself.
Right, but then you can
don't bullshit yourself.
Right. Then you can take the appropriate steps to solve the issue, and not be like, oh, it's fine, and just what you're doing is avoiding or ignoring, right? But you say like, oh, this is not fine. Let's make it fine, and just have the confidence that yes, I know I can make this be fine, but right now it's not. Yeah. And right now we have to deal with it.
Right. What are things in music you really enjoy, and what are other parts you could like, in your music journey?
Things that I enjoy.
Yeah, that are most enjoyable, and other things about like being a musician, being a teacher, maybe you could that are not fun, but they're just part of it.
Well, things that I enjoy, particularly in what I do in the education part, I love dealing with children. I think they are incredible. I think we don't value them as much as we should. I think
the greatest creative minds.
They have
greatest learners.
Incredible flexibility in their thinking. They're not as rigid, and even though some things might seem silly of what they say and everything, I think I would say I learn more from them sometimes than what they learn from me. and just having.
That's how we used to be, dude.
I know, and in a way, that's sort of what keeps me young at heart. You know, it's like I deal with them a lot, and dude, they're so smart. They're very, very smart. We don't give them enough credit. Just because they're not as knowledgeable doesn't mean that they're not smart. The way that they make connections and everything, and that's one of the things that I enjoy about what I do. Some things that I don't enjoy about what I do is sometimes actually dealing with the adults around the children.
Okay.
But yeah, sometimes, you know, parents and other figures have plans for their children, and
Right.
and I also know that they're doing it with their best intention.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, that hasn't happened that much in a while. But I remember, especially at the beginning, it was sometimes difficult. In terms of musically, I think I have certain issues about the politics of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
About some figures making decisions that shouldn't be up to them.
Mm-hmm.
That steer certain directions of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's people that are too self-absorbed, and their egos are too big,
Right.
and they forget the reason and the purpose of music and arts. So that's one thing that I don't enjoy, and I've actually stepped away a little bit from it. And what else? I don't like fast food music. Music that people make just to sell whatever, just to.
Yeah, sometimes I have the feeling it's not about music; it's more like creating a product.
It's well, music is a product, and the product has to be consumed. But sometimes you get, you know, a ribeye steak. I know you're a vegan, so maybe not the best example, but the best I can think of is like you get like some really high quality meat that was prepared, or some food that was very well prepared, and it was expertly prepared, I would say. And then there's McDonald's,
Right.
and unfortunately we have a lot of McDonald's music in the mainstream industry, but I just don't consume it.
Right.
You also have a choice.
Yeah.
And I
Especially
mean,
these
the
days.
people that are marketing this have a responsibility, but they're looking at it as a marketing product rather than art.
Right.
But you know, in the end, I also believe very much in the free market,
Mm-hmm.
and the market is going to decide in the end. So, but then, you know, it can have some negative consequences in the population. So you have to be responsible about those choices.
Music holds nostalgic powers. You know, when you look into music therapy, for example, you know, it can help with people with dementia a lot. That they are pulled back into the moment, or all of a sudden they remember when they listen to a song they heard, like, I don't know, decades ago, they grew up with, or something like that. How did your music taste change over time? You know, when you, I can speak out of my experience. I think the teenagers years were very influential. You know, they shaped your music taste, and it meant everything to you. You know, like it was, so meaningful. And if you compare like your early days with music and nowadays, did your taste change? Did your relationship with music change?
I would say my taste didn't change that much. However, I became more open. I've become more and more open. I mean, I basically, especially with my music training, it was mostly like classical music, very complex, a lot of, you know, it's very high quality, most of what I studied. So my standards became really, really high. But I also learned how to appreciate, you know, what people are creating. Sometimes it's not about complexity. Sometimes it's not about simplicity. You know, who can harmonize the most in the craziest ways. Like
Hi, Jacob.
Yes, Jacob. Like or like, I don't know, Rachmaninoff or some you know, a composer like that. It's like, wow, which is beautiful. And if it's done with intention and class and expertise and elegance. Oh, it's just amazing. But you know, I also enjoy like the Beatles, and some of the simplest songs are some of my favorite. Most of my teenage years, I would listen to the Beatles, and other, you know, pop music, rock. It's very simple music. You were talking about how that is connected to our emotions, and I think I would say is the other way around. Sometimes we think that is the music, but I think it's the emotion, because we go back to that emotion. You know, it's like sometimes you see or you encounter a person that triggers a feeling.
It's music can function as a reminder, right?
It's like a reminder, exactly. And sometimes you can't even remember like where you were or but you remember the feeling. Sometimes you don't remember the details, but you remember the feeling, right? It's the same things happens with certain people. Sometimes maybe you had a bad experience with someone and you forgot what that experience was, but you never forget the feeling. So every time you see that person, it's like the same feeling. It's like, ooh, or such a warm feeling, right? Same with the music. Sometimes you listen to a certain song, and sometimes it just can transport you back to like where you were, and, or certain places or certain people that you share the moment with, or a concert or whatever, right? But sometimes it's just a feeling. Sometimes I listen to music that I would listen to just like in my room by myself. Like nothing specifically like exciting would happen, but that created that feeling that when I think of it, I just feel young.
Isn't that interesting?
Right? I just feel young again, or I just feel like because that was. I don't remember when the first time I heard that song, or I don't remember how many times I heard it, like, but I remember the feeling, right? And also I love the way that music really is present in our lives, and sometimes it guides our emotions more than we think, because when you walk into a hotel lobby or an elevator or dentist office, or you watch a movie, or you get in the public bus, and right, the music that is playing is, whether you're conscious of it or not, it's influencing your mood,
right?
And can be even music that you don't like. You know, I know exactly the music when I used to take the public bus all the time. I remember exactly what type of music they would always listen to. Right?
Yeah, music can be, I don't know, can feel like heaven, and then at the same time other music can feel like torture.
But and then everything in between too. It can
sure.
It can be music that you like but reminds you of horrible things, and then it can be like shitty music that reminds you of like really good times.
There are a couple of songs. One song for example, I really don't like and I don't want to listen to, and then there's one song I really like but I still don't want to listen to because it reminds me of something I don't want to go through again.
There you go.
And then the other thing I just want to add is I was told one time, that really stuck with me, you don't remember what people say to you or said to you or did to you, but you remember how they make you feel or made you feel.
I would say that's true about most things that create an emotional impact on you.
Any bands, any artists, any songs that you listen to at the moment, like listening to? I mean, just.
I mean, of course, I'm a big fan of classical music. I'm a classical pianist. This is what I teach. But I, of course, most of composers from Bach to even the composers in the 20th and 21st century. Stravinsky, Shostakovich, Prokofiev. I don't know, I couldn't name a bunch, but those are like more classical or more academic. I love some jazz musicians as well. Like I absolutely love like Thelonious Monk, for example, and I love rock, for example. I love the rock from the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I love Queen. I love the Beatles. I already mentioned them. I absolutely love and enjoy progressive rock a lot. I know you do too. And we talk about it, and we share bands and songs and stuff. So one of my favorite bands ever is Dream Theater. One of the most fascinating musicians that I've ever encountered is Jacob Collier. I don't even know how to categorize his music. I think he just does whatever he wants, and he's successful at it because he understands it deeply. There's some genres that I'm not very that don't really resonate with me. Like country music doesn't really resonate with me, although I recognize that there are some country musicians, especially like old school country musicians, that are really good, and I appreciate them. I appreciate what they do for the culture.
Yeah, but I feel that about other music too. It's like, wow, technically and it's insane, but emotionally it just doesn't move me.
Yeah. And then there's garbage music that I don't. And I don't necessarily want to disrespect any particular person, like people, because I do believe that even those artists, they have dignity and they're providing for their families or whatever. Yeah, sure. But I don't agree with what they create. So I'm not going to name any names. But there's an abundance of them. And I like discovering new music, new bands. I like to talk to friends that have different musical tastes. But you always have your own classics, and it's usually your go-tos are, like you said, what you would listen to in your teenage years, maybe early 20s.
Besides music, is there anything else you're interested in, passionate about?
Well, I grew up with sports. My first and most beloved sport to play is soccer. That's what I love, really, is when it comes to physical activity. Soccer is always going to be number one. But I also really enjoy tennis a lot. I enjoy racquetball.
I'm learning something here about you.
You didn't know that I play racquetball?
No.
Did you know that I won the league here at LA Fitness several times?
No. Wow.
Yeah, it's a sport that I picked up after I had a soccer injury. And I couldn't have any much of a contact physical sport like that. And in Pittsburgh it's very cold, and you can't be outside. The tennis courts were covered in snow half the year. And so I picked up racquetball, and I actually became somewhat decent.
So I'm not gonna challenge you then.
We can go play sometime. It's a lot of fun, but it's very different from tennis. I like sports. I like physical activity. I like creative activities also that challenge me. I love video production, for example. I love food. I appreciate good food. and I love traveling, discovering new places, cultures, foods, music. You know, everything that comes with culture, I enjoy. I don't know. I like to spend time with friends and making new ones. Yeah, I don't know. That's.
Do you have any advice for young musicians or musicians who are just starting out early on their musical journey?
Yeah, I mean, practice a lot, but if you practice a lot, you must also live your life a lot, because there's nothing more boring than listening to someone that can move their fingers and say nothing. It's like learning a bunch of vocabulary and writing a fancy paragraph or a fancy speech and saying nothing. Yeah. It's also like the opposite is true. Like someone that's like too limited and basic, maybe has a lot to say but doesn't have the tools to say it. It's also kind of frustrating. So live your life, but practice your ass off too, and you know, be authentic. Try to get as many perspectives as you can. See everything as a learning opportunity. Take risks. The younger you are, you can take bigger risks, because they pay off. When you get older, even if that risk that you took very early on didn't work out, even if it was a massive disaster, 15, 20 years later, that is gonna develop your character for even more important moments. So take the risk, do it. And yeah, just be a responsible human being. Yeah, treat everyone with respect. There's always something you can learn from everybody. And yeah, I mean, I could go on and on, but that would be at least a good starting point.
Yeah, dude, that's it from my side. Thank you so much. I learned a lot about you.
Really?
Yeah.
Good.
That's amazing. So thanks for that opportunity. And is there anything you'd like to share? Anything we left out?
I mean, I don't know. You and I always have very lengthy and profound conversations, so we could be here all day. But no, just thank you for this. It's always fun to share moments like these, and yeah, let's do it again sometime.
Awesome. Gracias, amigo.
Fuck yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found the conversation interesting and valuable, and I can't wait to share the next one with you. Thanks for your interest. This is the greatest way to support independent art. Bleed creativity.